You know, human aggression, it's everywhere. It's a constant in our history, it's all over our headlines, and let's be honest, sometimes it shows up in our own lives. It's this really complex, powerful, and often destructive force. So in this explainer, we're going to break it down. We're going to look at what it really is, where it comes from, and why it happens. So let's just start with the biggest question of them all, right? Why do people hurt each other? It's a question that has kept philosophers and scientists busy for centuries, and social psychology actually gives us a great framework to start finding some real answers. Before we can get to the bottom of it, though, we need to be super clear about what we're even talking about. So our first stop is to lock down a solid academic definition of aggression. And trust me, it's probably a bit more specific than you think.
Okay, look closely here. The absolute key to this whole definition is that one little word, intent. If you accidentally trip someone in the hallway, well, that's clumsy, but it's not aggression. Same goes for a dentist causing you pain. You want that procedure, or at least you're not motivated to avoid it. For something to be truly called aggression, there has to be a deliberate plan to cause harm to someone who really wants to avoid it.
And this shows us that aggression is so much more than just throwing a punch. It can be a screaming insult, right? Or a nasty rumor designed to absolutely trash someone's reputation. It can even be something as quiet as a deliberate social snub, pointedly ignoring someone to hurt them. All of these things are designed to cause harm, whether that harm is physical, emotional, or social. All right, so now that we've got our definition down, let's add another layer. It turns out not all aggression comes from the same place. Psychologists usually break it down into two very distinct types, and each one has a totally different purpose.
So, on one side, you've got hostile aggression. This is the hot-blooded, emotional stuff. Think about a fight that just explodes out of a heated argument. The goal is the harm. That's the point. But then, on the other side, you have instrumental aggression. This is cold-blooded. It's calculated. The harm is just a tool, a means to an end. A classic example is a mugging. The goal isn't the violence itself. The goal is getting the wallet.
Okay, so that's the what. But what about the why? Let's peel back another layer and look inside, at the biological factors that can kind of set the stage for aggressive behavior. Is this something we're just born with?
Well, research points to a few key biological players. Let's start with the brain. Think of your prefrontal cortex as the brakes of your personality. It's there to control impulses. If those brakes aren't working right, they can't control the amygdala, which is like the engine driving our big emotional reactions. Now add in some chemistry, lower levels of serotonin, a neurotransmitter that helps regulate mood, have been linked to higher aggression. And of course, hormones like testosterone and substances like alcohol can pour fuel on that fire. It's a whole biological cocktail.
But here's the crucial takeaway. While our biology might load the gun, so to speak, it's very rarely the whole story. It just prepares the potential for an aggressive response. Something else usually has to come along and pull the trigger.
And one of the most powerful trigger pullers out there is good old-fashioned frustration. This brings us to a really classic idea in psychology that explains how stuff happening outside of us can spark aggression inside of us.
The frustration-aggression principle is actually beautifully simple when you lay it out. Step 1, you want something. Step 2, something or someone gets in your way. Step 3, you get frustrated. And step 4, that frustration can create this powerful drive to act aggressively. It's a pretty direct line from having a goal blocked to feeling that aggressive impulse.
But what happens when the thing causing your frustration is too big or too powerful to confront? I mean, maybe it's your boss, right? You can't just lash out. Well, that's where a little thing called displacement comes in. That aggressive energy, it doesn't just disappear. It gets redirected onto a safer, less threatening target. Think of someone having a terrible day at work and then coming home and yelling at their family. The target has changed, but the aggression is still fueled by that same frustration.
So, we've got biology, we've got frustration, but what about the whole nurture side of the nature versus nurture debate? This brings us to another huge theory, the idea that aggression isn't just an instinct or a reaction, but a behavior that we can actually learn from others. The legendary psychologist Albert Bandura just nailed it. His social learning theory argues that we learn to be aggressive in the exact same way we learn other social skills, by watching other people and by doing it ourselves. It's not necessarily something we're born with, but something we pick up from the world all around us.
So how exactly does this learning happen? Well, it's mostly in two ways. First, through what's called modeling. We watch other people, our parents, our friends, even characters in movies act aggressively and get what they want. We learn that, hey, aggression seems to work. And second, through direct experience. If a kid shoves another kid and snatches a toy, that aggressive act was just rewarded. That makes it way more likely to happen again in the future.
So we're left with this really fascinating puzzle. Aggression has roots in our biology, in our frustrations, and in our learned experiences. It's a product of both nature and nurture. And that leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. Knowing all of this, where does our individual and our collective responsibility for it all truly begin?